Hey, so I'm going to be talking about Buddhism in this video, and I think compared to the other topics I'm talking about, Buddhism is a little harder to, um, I guess, address without bringing in the culture around it, because the Law of One is a not very well known book, but Buddhism, I think everybody in the world has at least heard of Buddhism, and but yeah, I guess despite that, I'll kind of just present my view of it, and in a lot of ways, I'll probably make it sound like I know better about Buddhism than other people, but I think I hope we'll make it clear that it really is like Buddhism is something that you kind of make your own version of it when you practice it. So like anybody that practices Buddhism and really does like the meditations and like contemplation about it will have their own unique view of what it's saying about the world. So yeah, just to kind of get out of the way, like I am gonna state things like they're facts probably, but obviously they're facts to me and not to everybody else that thinks about these things. But yeah, I think the way I'm gonna present or kind of to introduce Buddhism in this video is based on the Triple Gem, which is a pretty common presentation of it, where they talk about the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, which I guess just like the basic translations of those are, like the Buddha is the enlightened, like the enlightened one, the founder of Buddhism, who historically lived like 3,000 years ago. Then the Dharma is the word for truth, which in this context usually means like the truth that the Buddha was telling people. And the Sangha is the word for the community of both the monks who like have taken the vows and wear the orange robes, as well as the people who support the monks, which I think technically I would be a part of the Sangha because I I practice Buddhism and have gone to monasteries and stuff, but I haven't taken any vows, which I think arguably the Sangha is like someone who's taken a vow to follow the precepts, which the precepts are like the moral code of Buddhism. But but yeah, kind of going from that, the that model is really useful, but I think I'm going to um, kind of use it in a different way than oh, this is something I need to not talk so fast because you probably couldn't tell what I was saying there. I'm going to use it in a different way than the usual like Buddhist preachers would use the triple gem model. So basically, what I'm going to say is that you can view Buddhism as kind of three components, with the first one being essentially the pursuit of enlightenment and the fact that enlightenment is a thing and can be essentially like something observed in other people and something which you can find within yourself. Then the second way is to see it as essentially a moral code and a way of interacting with other people, and a way of forming communities that are kind of peaceful and loving, and based on the idea of unity rather than the idea of division. And the final one, which I think is the main thing I'll talk about in the future, is using Buddhism as essentially a way of viewing the world in a very detached and very analytical sense, which in a lot of ways takes the role of science, where science tends to be the something on my shoulder. Science uh, is based on like the scientific method, and there's a lot of experiments and like directly verifying things. And that's kind of how I view Buddhism, is as an internal science, which you can um, basically do the experiments within your own mind. And instead of getting knowledge about physics and things, you get knowledge about the almost like the laws of mental physics, and like the way that the mind works, and the way that your own specific patterns and habits emerge from the things which are kind of like I don't know, kind of like the foundations of your personal mind. Um, which yeah, each one of those is a whole bunch of stuff to get into. But let me think. I think I'll yeah, I think I'll leave that there as kind of the foundation of what I'll talk about in the future, because I think each one would be too much to get into in this single video. Um, but yeah, I think I'll just talk a little bit more about the general idea of like the way of combining these three factors, kind of the pursuit of enlightenment, the way to interact positively with people, and the way of understanding the mind. Kind of the overall integration of these things is to well, that's a big thing to claim that I have the answer to. The way that I've slowly been figuring out how to do it for myself is to essentially use the understanding you get from it to like see how your personal being is presented to other people, and how it changes over time within your own private life, and kind of seeing um, the ways that you differ from how you want yourself to be, and the ways that you differ from how other people expect you to be. Because a lot of these, like a lot of the ideas of morality and like ethical codes are, or they're based on what other people, or like there's like two different ways of basing it, and one is to kind of listen to people who say they know, like, what ethics is, or they know what the moral way of acting is, and the other way is to just listen to what other people tell you, like one on one, or like watch people's emotions and see like, oh, if I act this way, it makes this person unhappy. And I feel like that's really the way to base your morality on, like, I don't know, the real world that you're living in, is to see, how do I affect other people, and how can I don't know, be genuine while affecting them positively, essentially. And that ties in a lot of that, like the understanding of the world, because you need to be able to understand the world to see what people are telling you beyond the words that they can speak, Because I know I'm sounding like, I imagine this sounds very masculine, like using science to understand emotions, but in a lot of ways, this is like, it is kind of the only thing we have. Like we have all the intuition and the kind of the non-verbal things within our own view of the world. But at the end of the day, if we want, or I don't know, the way I see it at least is that in order to really to be like fully aware of reality, fully aware of your own self, and fully aware of other people's selves, you have to be able to kind of analyze things and see them for what they are. And a lot of the progress you can make in doing this comes from essentially using different tools and different kind of logical frameworks to kind of just reframe things and like view the same situation from different angles. And that and yeah, I guess not everybody necessarily thinks that that's the way to do things. And this does kind of get into my the part that is my interpretation, but I essentially see Buddhism as a very effective way to do what I'm talking about. That whole building a really accurate and diverse model of the world, and using that to understand other people and to understand yourself, and to simply understand like nature around you. And yeah, what I'm talking about here, I guess, is the community building and the understanding building. But both of these are really in service of the progress towards enlightenment, because enlightenment is essentially, it's like what happens when you've perfected everything else in your world and your being. And the way I've presented it isn't necessarily the way to perfect these things, because as someone who basically, like, like the way I'm presenting it is the way you present it before you've like finished the process. Because I've like made some progress on this path, but because I haven't finished it, the way I'm talking about it is inevitably going to be leaving things out, and it's going to be essentially like because of my understanding of it, I'm like pointing myself in a certain direction, and that direction isn't quite straight ahead. And it's like I'll eventually meander my way there through the progress that I'm making, but yeah, I guess take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, as they say, because yeah, actual enlightenment is like a very I think it's like a what's the way to put it? It's like it's infinitely far away, or it's like there's it's like a destination at the end of the road, and the road keeps going on forever until you've gotten there, and then you're there. But until you get there, the road is longer than you can actually see. If that makes sense. It's like you know the end is there, but you can't see it, and you can talk about it, but you don't know if you're talking about the same thing. And yeah, but there's still things to say about it that are somewhat legitimate. Yeah, but yeah, hopefully that's a pretty good introduction to Buddhism. Just in kind of summary, it's like the traditional model is of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and what I'm presenting here is essentially the path towards enlightenment and the definition of enlightenment, then the way of understanding the world, and the methods where you can use essentially other people's teachings as tools to build your own understanding. And finally, the way to interact with people in a way that essentially respects your own being and respects their being on the same level, and leads to, you know, cohesive community and just pleasant interactions with the world around you. And yeah, hopefully I can make a case for that, for those being things that I can understand well enough to explain. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see you next time. And before I feel so much like anxiety about like the intro and outro things, but these beginning videos really are like a way for me to get those things, like kind of just like purge those energies of like not knowing how to end a video or feeling like I have to like start things with an intro. But yeah, the more like directly I can like verbalize that feeling, the more it will kind of work itself out, and I can yeah, I don't know, feel more comfortable making videos and talking like I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I guess that's about it. Peace.